Good evening. I'm Kathleen Stevens, Vice Chair of the Asia Foundation Board of Trustees, coming to you tonight from Troy, Montana. In my work, I've had the chance to travel the world to serve as American ambassador to Korea, as a diplomat in India and other places, and to meet many extraordinary leaders. But it's my honor today to introduce two leaders whose distinctive and admired track record of leading through change are a model for today's and tomorrow's leaders. Lieutenant Governor of California, Eleni Kounalikis, on behalf of the Asia Foundation, it is my distinct pleasure to present the Asia Foundation's 2020 Visionary Leadership Award to you. You have been a catalyst for change across the state of California, throughout the United States, and across the globe, whether as a business leader, an ambassador to the Republic of Hungary for the United States, and of course now serving as the 50th Lieutenant Governor of California, where you are the first woman elected to that office. You chair the Governor's International Affairs and Trade Development Interagency Committee to promote trade and tourism. You have worked closely with India, which is one of California's largest trading partners, and of course you are dealing with enormous challenges across the state as we speak now. Ratan Tata is one of India's most prominent business and philanthropic leaders. He headed the Tata Group, a Mumbai-based global conglomerate with family roots extending back to the 19th century. And then he took on the chairmanship of Tata Trusts. The Tata Group has focused on addressing some of India's most urgent needs. Ratan Tata began his career with the Tata Group on the shop floor of Telco and Tata Steel, where he shoveled limestone and was a team member in the blast furnaces. I well recall your leadership, Mr. Tata, and your counsel in India during my tenure at the US Embassy there in 2013 and 14. It is an honor today to present you with the Asia Foundation's Chang Lin Tien Leadership Award. This award recalls the legacy of the late Dr. Chang Lin Tien, an immigrant to the United States from Asia who rose to become a prominent engineer, educator, and internationalist, Chancellor of the University of California at Berkeley, and Chair of the Asia Foundation's Board of Trustees. Welcome, Mr. Tata and Lieutenant Governor Kounalikis.
Ambassador Stevens, it's wonderful to be here with you and with the Asia Foundation. It's really very humbling to be honored this year and to appear with Mr. Tata, who has his leadership in India and in international affairs and business have really been extraordinary. So thank you so much for having me, and I really look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to be here, and I'm very touched by the honor that's being bestowed on me today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tata, and thank you for all that you do, continue to do for U.S.-India relations, but also for the development of leadership in your country and the world, and likewise to the Lieutenant Governor. And I know that our audience would really enjoy hearing from you, some thoughts from you, and I'm going to make it very general about any particular example from your own career and history in dealing with challenging change. It's leadership through change. We're certainly in a changing time with changing leadership. That might be relevant to these development fellows that we're supporting the work of tonight. Maybe I could turn to the Lieutenant Governor first.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Stevens. To your fellows who are watching, I think most of them are aware that 2018 in the United States is being called the year of the woman in politics. More women ran for Congress and governorships in our country than ever before, and more women won than ever before. And it was more of a calling, I think, that many women heard and stood up and put themselves forward into the arena. So in my case, when I felt this inside of me that I needed to find a race and put myself forward, the Lieutenant Governor in California, there had never been a woman elected to this position before. And so when I saw that, and it was before the Me Too movement had kind of broken loose, But I saw this, then California is the largest state in the country with 40 million people. I'd never run for office before. Instead, I just felt this drive to jump in and to run a campaign that was based on a positive message, one of optimism and hope. And I ended up winning by a substantial margin. So I guess that the moral of the story, if you will, or the lesson of leadership that I learned is that sometimes you're going to feel an impulse to lead, and how important it is to follow that impulse and to not hear those little voices in your head saying, well, what if it doesn't work out? And what if I lose? And what about all these unpredictable things that could go wrong? But rather to hear the call of leadership and to stand up and put yourself forward.
I thought a great deal about what I could say or what I could recount. And I finally focused on an event that happened 10 years ago, which was the terrorist attack on the Taj Hotel in Mumbai. Suddenly, I heard that there was shooting at the Taj. I got in my car and went down there. The police pushed all of us out, and you could hear gunfire. You could hear grenades. You could see the flashes, and there were about 300 to 400 people in the hotel at that time. And what did we need the most? We needed leadership to follow. All the staff acted on their own. There were no manuals that told them what to do, but they shepherded the guests out through the kitchens, through the back of the house to safe locations. Many of them lost their lives in the process of doing that. And you had to say that somehow leadership comes out of places that you don't expect. People do things that are not meant to be acts of leadership, but they are. And you don't know how it happened or why it happened. So our trust stepped in and basically took up the challenge of bringing the people to the hospital, paying for their recuperation, helping the people who lost the family members. And that was, again, an issue of leadership. You didn't need to do it. It could have been said that it was the government's job to do it, but somebody stepped up, in this case us, to reflect on what needed to happen. What needed to happen was, again, someone to follow. The terrorists were trying to blow up our hotel. I went on the network and said that whatever happened, we'd rebuild the hotel brick by brick. We'd bring it back to the level that it was, and no one was going to bring us down. They may put us to our knees, but we would rise again. And whichever way you looked at it, it was not compassion alone, it was leadership. People needed to have someone to follow, someone that inspired them, someone that inspired them like you, Madam Governor, to say that there was an issue out there and someone rose to that occasion and made a difference. But what I think is called for, which is not always out in the open, is the courage to lead. You mentioned it, Madam. You mentioned jumping into something that hadn't been done before. It took courage. It takes courage to lead. You talk to the pandemic, and you look at India, the large number of transient labor that didn't know where to go, living in close proximity, therefore the issue of social distancing impossible. And yet the people got together and had the courage to clamp down on directions. And the slums have turned out to be almost a case study of how the residents of the slums rose to the occasion and got somewhere. So I think it's courage to overcome failure the first time, courage to stand out and be considered to be wrong, and be driven then by the desire to do what you think is right.
Mr. Tata, your incredible leadership and success and engagement in your country is really one of the best examples out there of business people engaging as members of civil society and bringing your resources to help lead in your country. Thinking about that terrible incident in Mumbai so many years ago now, the whole world was watching. And so for you to get in your car and go to the scene when bullets were still flying and bring your resources to bear to help work with government collaboratively to address the crisis in real time is an extraordinary example of courage.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I know I speak for not just everyone at the Asia Foundation on the Board of Trustees, but to the young people that we are trying to nurture and encourage and support going forward, that they look to you as role models and sources of wisdom and leadership and courage going forward. So thank you both very, very much for accepting these awards, for supporting our work, and we look forward to working together going forward.
The world needs leaders. There are times that you feel that you're bereft of leadership, but leadership is hidden often in people. They have to be brought out, they have to be nurtured, they have to be encouraged. And I hope we see more of that in the world we are looking out to see in the future.